Today's show is sponsored by ExpressVPN. Don't let others track what you do. Anonymize yourself at expressvpn.com/inside. Hey everybody, welcome to the Inside Gaming podcast where we talk all about video games, and whoo boy, we've got some gaming controversy for y'all today, and it's all about Cyberpunk. There is, it is on fire. All right, but first, the introductions. I'm Brian.
I'm Zach.
I am Amir.
Good morning, Night City. It's your boy at Darth Burrito on Twitter, Evan Campbell. What's going on? Everything is on fire. Cyberpunk is broken as hell. It's going to be a fun show today.
It is, to say the least. I have never, I don't think, ever seen a game switch in 24 hours from just ultimate hype to, and we're recording this on Thursday, but just swing the exact opposite direction of just people are furious everywhere. And you know, it's not just the bugs and glitches, but boy, the performance, if you're playing it on a base PS4 or an Xbox One, specifically an Xbox One S, it is real bad. So Evan, I think you said you had played a little bit of it. What did you play it on, and what are your thoughts so far?
Gosh, yeah. I mean, I started, last night when I'm playing on Series X, so I don't have nearly as many issues, I think, as a lot of other people are experiencing. But even on Series X, that game is really buggy. Like within the first hour, like there's tutorials that you can clear without like meeting the checks. Like there's like a stealth section that it's like, go through this section stealthily. And I triggered the alarm at the end and I just went through the door and it let me through.
Wow.
There's like an intro section where one of your AI companions...
Wait, hold on. I should probably cut you off real quick.
Sure.
If you can, when you're giving rundowns, and this is just for people listening. And, obviously us as well. Just, maybe no spoilers, or I guess if you do.
Keep it general.
Yeah, exactly.
Good.
Continue.
Good
I got bad news for you. Keanu Reeves is in this game, and he's a dead rock star.
Sound the spoiler horn. We're going wild. No, I haven't played enough, I don't think, to actually like spoil this game. I mean, aside from maybe the intro choices of choosing between Corpo, Nomad, and like Street Urchin or whatever. I think Dragon Age.
Did you? What's your junk looking like, and how big is that hog?
Oh yes, I am a beautiful Corpo lady, so that's how I'm playing.
Do you have a giant vagina?
I don't know if you can. There is a large amount of
asking the real questions here.
Yeah, compared to character creators in the past, there is like 3 different sliders for like your genitalia. So
can you have like a female character but have male genitalia?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I think you can just kind of do what you want. Yeah. Because I don't think it's like, Well,
there's that glitch where your ding dong comes out of your pants. And
there's something about Mary style a little bit.
And I want to make sure that I can still play a beautiful woman of Night City, but also still have that experience of hopping on a motorcycle to see my one-eyed snake burst through the panes straight in.
I mean, if you want to get technical, there's 2 options for peepees. There's 1 option for vagina, I guess, and there's a none option too, which is just an underwear option.
So what?
You're not like Barbie doll.
Sort of, yeah.
You're playing it fairly optimally. I feel like the PC version is obviously the best experience, but have the bugs and things distracted you, or is it, are you still enjoying it despite all that?
I would compare it to like Fallout 3 launch or Fallout 4's launch. Like the bugs are real. They're there. You're not going to miss them. I think like for me, like even particularly for the Corpo storyline, which is all I can speak to, just structurally, it seems like that stuff doesn't even hit that strongly. Like I don't feel like my choice has affected any of my gameplay within like the 2
like your character design, you mean?
Yeah, it just kind of got retconned really quickly, and I don't know, I can't speak to the game. Is obviously very long, and maybe my origin story comes back into play later in the game, but I just felt like at this point in time, I've felt like my choice of origin didn't really matter. So I would probably suggest not going corpo if that was an interest you had. Like,
interesting.
I've spent like
that's what I want to play.
Yeah, I spent maybe like the total of like 5 minutes in a corporate Cyberpunk building, maybe less.
Okay.
Yeah. So
and then you're just out on the street, doing things. Okay.
And like we said, I don't want to get too much into spoilers, especially if that's
like
a direction you want to head. But just from my perspective, it's not. I do not feel fulfilled. I'm not living a corpo fantasy at all.
Well, it seems like from what I could tell, like the path you choose, nomad, corpo, and I think street person is just an excuse to get you, like, it's a jumping off point to get you into like the same story that everyone else will feel, which is why I've been seeing a lot of people choose nomad, because it looks like of the 3 choices, that's the one that starts you out in like the desert outside of the city, and the whole shtick is like getting into the city, whereas the other 2 start you in the city. So I mean, it's an interesting,
It's interesting because there is it's been so hyped and people have been so excited, but I just keep getting back to boy, people on those base consoles are not pleased, and the argument is, well, you're playing it on 7-year-old hardware, which is true. So obviously, it's not going to run the same. However, the game was marketed for those consoles too.
Yes,
and it's been in development for years and years. And if it had come out in April when it was scheduled, those would have been the current gen of consoles. Right. I mean, the PS4 and the Xbox One. There's been a lot.
That's a great point. That's a fantastic point. Yeah.
I mean, we can say it's last gen hardware. It's last gen hardware as of a month ago.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I did see. So somebody made the argument on Twitter, which I totally forgot about, and it makes sense. But do you remember when Watch Dogs, the first Watch Dogs, was like being teased and being shown, and it was like going to be this crazy thing? It was like essentially GTA but with hacking. When they showed that off, and like when the game actually dropped on like PS3 and 360, it was like not anything like what was shown. And that was because they teased it and they marketed it on next gen hardware and not the current gen. And I think this was before the PS4 and Xbox One came out. So my guess is it's probably going to be something fairly similar, where it's like, to get the actual experience for this dense as hell game, you're gonna have to get it on the next gen console.
Yes, yes, I think that's, and we should also note there's a long history of companies showing off trailers at E3 that turn out to be like pre-rendered, or it's on a PC and it doesn't look as great when you play it. Promising features that don't make it. So there's always been a little bit of sleight of hand with this stuff, but they people have been playing trailers of what it looked like to walk through the crowd in the E3 demo versus the reality. Quite a bit different.
Yeah,
exactly. Amir, is something on fire next to you?
Oh no, it's a humidifier. Actually,
okay.
Okay,
that's fine.
I just wanted to make sure that we weren't. I was like, I don't want to cut anyone off here, but I'm gonna feel real guilty if
let's
I
make sure Amir's
my
okay
tongue.
first.
Yes, there's an ominous, what looks like smoke brewing in Amir's video.
Yeah. I almost feel like I should have fooled you with that and said like, oh my god.
I was like, I see this smoke billowing from the corner. I was like, oh, maybe it's just like he's got a really hot drink with it. I remember, you're drinking what appears to be straight green moonshine out of a mason jar. So
green lightning.
Water, but
it's Amir's copy of his PS4 copy of Cyberpunk 2077. It's just like,
that's his PS4 trying to run it.
I think there's a lot of things to tackle here in terms of, one, when you have a developer making like that next gen experience, or the hottest technical gaming experience that's supposed to be on the market, they start like, there's different approaches to development, right? And they starting with like a highest build version, the best version of that game, the best looking version and running version of that game they can on the best hardware, and then stepping it down to try and make it work for the others. And that's probably what's happened here. And there's probably a lot to say about that. I mean, even on Xbox Series X, there's like, just as some examples, in one of the intro missions, my companion AIs, like dual wielding pistols, were floating around by themselves, even though he was still holding them and then running around.
Nice.
There's like a tutorial section in the game where a character just shows up as if you know them, but in the Corpo story, like I hadn't even met them yet, so it was like really disorienting. There's just stuff that indicate in this game that it doesn't feel done,
quite finished.
It feels like a little bit like undercooked in that way. But yeah, I think from the developer side, and we've seen them, you know, have 3 different delays, like official delays. So it's kind of wild, this thing where it's like, we can be critical of them having to delay the game, but then also now it's busted. So there's like a little bit of a back and forth, right?
Well,
like it's
yeah. And they made it sound like when they delayed it from the November release, they kind of made it sound like it's done, it's gold, but we're just going to polish a little bit more. And that's sort of making it sound like it's ready. There's just, you know, we're just kind of fine tuning, or at least that's how I read it.
Yeah.
But it seems like, no, it's like they were cramming for a final they hadn't studied for, that they put off for 8 years.
It does kind of feel like that. And what's weird to me is like, I almost feel like I could have sworn they were delaying it for the sake of optimization.
Yes.
And I mean,
and it's not optimized at all.
Could you imagine,
like
if they didn't get delayed?
Yeah, exactly. I feel it would be a lot worse. And what's weird is like I have friends who have like picked it up last night on PC, and I noticed that it's almost kind of the same with PC players, depending on what kind of hardware you actually have in your PC.
Sure.
Yeah, because I have a buddy who has like not a great GPU, and he literally said like, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna spend $1,000 on a GPU to play Cyberpunk because it runs like ass. And then I have another friend who's playing it on PC and it runs great.
Can you give me also $1,000 if he's just got it? I would make that.
I know, right?
I have it coming. It's literally due to arrive like any minute now. I have a 1X that I'm going to play it on, which is my best option at this point. Not a terrible machine. You know, a month ago, it was the most powerful console on the market.
That is true.
And I'm on Twitter searching, and people are like, yeah, it runs like ass on my 1X.
Yeah.
I'm like, God damn it. Maybe I just shouldn't open it and return it. I don't know.
Actually, Evan, I do want to ask you that because I have heard that it looks like really good on next-gen consoles.
Yeah.
Is that true? Like, does it look nice? Because I was saying this before we started recording, but there was a side-by-side of like this guy who was like showing off gameplay on a base PS4, and it like straight up looked like a PS2 game. Like, no joke. It looked like shit. Like, so I was getting worried. I mean, granted, I'm going to play it on my PS5, but like, that's weird. Does it look fine on next gen consoles?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think it looks like. I mean, as much as you've seen of like comparisons to last gen to next gen, I haven't hit any set pieces or any moments yet where I'm just like, whoa, this is super next gen. It's more of like, this is running smoothly. Load times are like pretty fast. Like obscenely fast for like a new game that you would get that is like, you know, pushing those benchmarks that you would expect. Like, you know, even like Uncharted and Last of Us, when those Sony exclusives hit, they do have like initial load times that are pretty long. And then Cyberpunk, I haven't noticed that at all yet. Like the glitches do run, I think, in 60 frames or something, you know, like they are smooth as hell. But they are there, you know, and like the issues are there. And nothing
weird.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say nothing I've hit so far has like impeded my gameplay. Like I haven't had a crash, but again, I've played like maybe 3 hours. That's not a lot.
Okay. That's right.
You know?
Yeah.
I never thought I'd say this. I'm kind of thinking about trying it on Stadia because I'm looking at the Stadia subreddit right now and sort of their master Cyberpunk discussion thread, and people seem to be like, people are saying it's in 60 FPS. Obviously, it depends on your internet connection, but like, played for 2 hours, no bugs, looked great, felt great.
I've been seeing a lot of takes saying that
180p, 60 FPS confirmed.
Yeah. Oh, I think we lost Zach again.
Oh no.
But no, he's right. Like we definitely. We definitely talked about this, I think, last week even, where like, this could be a big win for Stadia. You know, this could be a good test case.
Right. This is right in their wheelhouse. Exactly. Like a good test case, because it's like, well, our hardware will handle this. We got the supercomputers back at Google.
Yeah.
And you know, you just need a Chrome browser open or whatever. And like, that's a pretty compelling case on stuff like that, especially if it's just going to run like shit on most consoles. And again, I realize a lot of people are trying to play it on 7-year-old hardware, but that's probably a majority of the people who are trying to play it right now, not counting PC. I mean,
yeah,
it's a perfect storm, really. Like for Stadia,
you have 100 million PS4 owners, 50 million. Add another 50 million, 40 million Xbox One owners. That's a lot. Now, maybe most are PC, but I would guarantee you at least half are trying to play this on old consoles.
I think there's probably a larger, like the PC audience pie is so much larger of like the players of video games. So I think there's probably tons and tons of people. But even like the GOG store, and I was like reading a headline the other day that there was like server issues with that stuff, even on PC. Where they just because so many people, they just got overloaded because so many people were trying to get the game or whatever. And like that download, the initial download was 60 gigs. I don't know what the patch was. Maybe that included the patch because I pre-installed.
Yeah.
The patch is the patch already out? Like
there's a day one. There's a day one patch. Yes.
Yeah.
And that comes out today. Is that like complete? Because that's what I was curious about. Because like, if there's all these bugs, like when I go get my game and I try to play it, is it going to be like a glitchy mess, or is like that stuff already fixed from like the day one patch?
Like are you talking about the bugs?
Yeah. Like I wasn't sure if the day one patch is already out or if they were like planning on dropping that once it's like available.
I'm not
worldwide or whatever.
I think it's out, but I'm not 100% on that.
There are so many issues. Like I can't imagine them fixing this all in one patch.
No. This is going to take at the least, I would say, weeks and weeks and weeks.
I mean, even months and months and like years after Skyrim has been out, like there's still mammoths like flying through the sky and whatever. Like that's
true.
True.
I mean, that is true. Yes,
that is very much the case with this game. This is open world jank, like at its finest.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
That is.
I mean, the good news. People. You were talking about PC. It set a record on Steam, 1 million concurrent players. That's insane. For a single player game, that was the record. The last one was Fallout, which was like less than 500,000. Fallout 4, so it doubled Fallout 4. It's I'm positive it's the #1 game on Twitch right now. That makes sense.
Certainly.
So they said they did 8 million pre-orders. Like it's doing insane numbers. So
it's setting records.
Yeah, if only the game was in better shape, they would be killing it.
Honestly, I just don't think it's ultimately going to matter. Like, I think maybe even
is it fixable? Yeah, is the big question.
Even like in the daily, I feel like they're. What did we talk about stock in the daily? I was reading another story where like stock prices had dropped.
I put it in there. I don't know if they talked about it. It peaked to, I don't think it was an all-time high, but it was almost an all-time high. Like. 6 days ago, but since then it is just sort of the reviews made it drop because I guess a 91 on Metacritic isn't good enough.
That's
and then it
wild.
was down like quite a bit
bananas.
today. It was down like 9% today. So like CD Projekt Red as a company has like a lot riding on this game, needless to say.
But honestly, I feel like it's just not going to matter. It's already sold millions and millions of copies. I think that it's the bugs are in there, but people are going to be forgiving of this in the way that they're forgiving of Bethesda games. And I
think so.
For the most part, I think it's fair as long as
they fix it.
We'll see in a week.
Yeah.
I mean, so my whole thing is okay. I mean, all right. So this game has been in development for what, 8 years?
Yes.
Probably longer.
The first teaser came out, I think, 8 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So my whole thing is like, I'm not even mad, right? Like all these bugs, like I totally get it. I totally understand. And
Amir, nothing makes you mad. You're the most chilled out person.
Well, thank you, Brian.
Man's computer is literally on fire as we speak.
Right.
Yeah. So chill.
Not even saying anything about it.
That's fine. I'll deal with it later. I got an extinguisher. But like I just think, when you have a game that's been this hyped for this long and it's been in development for this long, but you can't expect it to be perfect. I mean, I get it if there are a lot of people that probably are like, oh, why is this happening? You guys have had so much time to work on this.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But like with something like this, when they're literally like going out of their way to set bars and like make this game like the future of open world or whatever, there's bound to be some jank. And I think a lot of people should just, because I've seen a lot of hate on this game for it.
Yeah.
But there are some people who are very understanding of it too, which is cool. And I think we should all just it'll get patched out. They got DLC coming, I think free DLC coming out like next month or something. So they obviously already have like future plans for this game.
Yeah.
So I'm sure everything will just smooth out eventually. But
it is super ambitious, and even the reviews where I have knocked the performance, almost all of them have said they love the underlying game.
Yeah.
So that's the good news. If you can just sort of fix the performance and everything, there's a good game underneath there.
I feel like if you're going to take issue with anything else, then it starts to fall apart, right? I think about like the big like giant bomb game of the year discussion that involved Fallout 3, where like Brad Shoemaker's whole argument for making it game of the year was based on like, you can't have these open world games without these types of problems. They're impossible to make without them, which
it would take 20 years to put out if you
tried to like QC everything. But and like, I don't know, people fall on one side of that argument or the other. I wonder what it means. Like you're talking about review scores, Brian. You're right. Like there was a lot of high, like 100 scores, 90 scores. I think it was only like GameSpot and GamesBeat that scored it under an 80 at the time, like earlier this week, right? But now that the game is out, we're going to see a lot more reviews. There's other reviewers who are playing on last gen consoles, and I don't think they're going to be as forgiving, right?
But that's fine. Yeah. I mean, I think that's valid too.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, they've painted themselves into like a weird corner here, because on the one hand, it's positioned itself it started to position itself as like an end of this console generation, one of those like heavy hitter games that comes out at the end of a console generation, like a Last of Us 2, a God of War 3, stuff like that.
Right.
But now that it has been delayed to the point where it literally crossed the threshold of the new generation starting, whatever like messaging they try to push, people are still going to see it as this like next gen console experience, and it is I think it's a way harder pill to swallow to be a really buggy next gen launch window game that is this fragmented and disjointed on so many different fronts, where like it's like it, and again it just goes back to Brian, you made this point earlier, where it's like, if this had come out in April, I guess was that original launch window, it's like how do you expect to have a game perform like this on the console it was initially
scheduled
supposed to launch
with,
and then like playing it on a next gen console, really, even it might help performance, but it doesn't fix these issues at all. So it's like, what I don't understand. It's weird because I keep seeing people be like, well, don't play it on a PS4. I'm like, but it was fucking marketed for a PS4. It was marketed for an Xbox. You can't like, and there's all these fucking nerds ready to like take a speeding bullet for this multi-million-dollar corporation. It's like these like layman gamers that are like, I'm like, no, like I'm the everyman salt of the earth gamer, and I'm, I still have my launch PS4, but goddamn, I'm gonna take this bullet for CD Projekt Red. And it's like, why? They marketed it for the console you have. If they tell you this game is coming out on your console, you should have an expectation that it will at least run, that it will at least play.
It was teased, what, if 8 years ago was 2012, the PS4 and Xbox One weren't even out yet when they were teasing.
Was it really
game.
teased 8 years ago?
Yeah, I believe so.
But at that time they said like, hey, this is just our next project. We're not working on it yet.
Right. So, and I think it didn't really kick into gear until Witcher 3 was done, obviously.
Yeah. It was announced May 2012. Wow.
But I will say that there has been reporting out there that the game ran like crap on current gen consoles, meaning the PS4 and the Xbox One, and people denied it, and other developers kind of jumped to their defense and saying, well, they just haven't optimized it yet. But clearly that did not happen. And I do, like, to Amir's point, I love that it's ambitious. I like that they're clearly trying to set a new bar for open world games in terms of the immersiveness and everything else. And by all accounts, they've succeeded in that. Yeah, it just feels like, I think you said this, Evan, it feels like they were just running it on the best hardware possible.
Yeah.
And then kind of working it backwards from that. So yeah, it just feels like, I feel like you have to do right by the people with old hardware, even if it's, I know it's old, but you kind of made a commitment to those players too.
Yeah.
And to Zach's point, there's a timeline here where we would have had Cyberpunk 6 months before it even came out on next gen, right? Like if it came out in April, you would have had it for half a year practically.
Right. It would have been an old game at this point.
Yeah.
I know you say it in jest, Brian, but it really does seem like they developed the game on the best possible hardware and just started reverse engineering backwards, which is not crazy. That's
maybe that's how
normal.
game development works. I don't know.
Yeah. No, it is. It is. You're right. But like but the disparity is so great in this one that it's like somehow CDPR got like their hands on like a DARPA, supercomputer in 2013, and we're like, let's reverse engineer from there. Whereas
we're gonna make it on Deep Blue, and then
like a last gen, quote unquote last gen release side by side is nothing new for games. Like I remember looking lustfully at my friends playing Tony Hawk 3 on PS2 and being like, well, man, but at least the game that I have on PS1 is running, and it's like, okay, there's a graphical hit, but like performance wise, that's what a last gen version is for, is that you make the game so that it performs as optimally as possible on those.
Yeah, and typically these sort of end of generation games do better because it's like they've kind of figured out how to optimize the hardware. I mean, Ghost of Tsushima, Last of Us 2 from a performance standpoint, and just historically, it's like that's the time when. And maybe I'm just sort of thinking about exclusives here, rather than multiplats. But typically that last year is when you kind of get some of the best stuff because they've optimized everything, and this just is not that at all.
You know what they should have done when I think it was when the PS4 first came out and GTA 5, they came out with a new version of GTA 5. It wasn't like just a remaster. It was like pretty much a new version because they added like first person, like denser traffic. Like they literally went in and redid this game.
Yes.
And I think they should have done something kind of similar here where they prioritize current gen, right? I think they should have prioritized PS4, Xbox One, and just made sure this game ran great. It didn't have to look great, but just like make it run great.
Rock solid. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then have like a few more months of development time and then come out with a new, more polished version for the next gen consoles. I think that probably would have been a smarter course of action. But like, I get it with how many times they've had to delay this game. Like, I'm sure they're just like, we don't want to piss any more people off. We know people are tired of seeing this stupid fucking yellow screen. We'll just give them the game and just call it a day. So I don't know. I think they should have segmented it a little bit more.
It does feel like that.
It feels like an impossible task. Like even to simultaneously launch all of these different versions of the game running on different platforms just feels like Herculean in a way that just is insurmountable. And if they had their original timeline, they would have been okay because they would have had 6 months or so to work on a next gen version of the game, like you're saying, Amir. I mean, granted, COVID is probably a big factor in like some of the delays on top of
that is true.
The scale and the things.
And not to mention the social upheaval happening in Poland right now that is like on the level of rivaling, what we were seeing this summer in the United States. I mean, like,
oh wow.
Yeah, Poland is like in the midst of some taken to the streets action right now. So like given all of those things, given COVID, given like the state of the, like you said, the Herculean task of trying to make it be out on what was it, 9 different
something like that
platforms.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's just insane. I mean, like you have to give them some slack here, but I think they also, like I said, they backed themselves into kind of a corner because like this game, it let's be real, it crossed the threshold of ever living up to the hype like years ago. Like this game could have come out years ago and like the hype still would have been so built up.
Yes, that's right. And that happens in games all the time. Like the hype just spins out of control and then you're like, oh, it's actually just a video game. It's not some infinite thing that I can just play whenever and I'll never have to leave my room again. Yeah. But again, I keep coming back to like most of the reviewers seem to like the game itself. So some of this stuff hopefully is fixable, because it seems like the underlying product is good.
I can't help but think about Halo Infinite, the news this week that they just delayed the game like an entire year, basically. Yeah. And that seems like the move, right? But like in Cyberpunk's case, I don't think they had that amount of flexibility. Like that.
No. I don't
the question
think
is,
either.
should Cyberpunk 2077 have been delayed again? Like, should they have
Yeah.
delayed it again?
Well,
and maybe the answer is probably. Maybe the answer is yes.
So I do have a counterpoint to that, and I mean, you can tell me if you agree or disagree. But I feel like for Halo,
Disagree.
like I'm thank you. Zach. I'm glad that they're delaying it because now the game is. I mean, well, it better be great because of how much time they're putting into it. So the difference between Cyberpunk and Halo is Halo was originally slated to be a launch title for a next-gen console that released with no games. Cyberpunk was going to be basically a platform agnostic,
yes,
just piece,
the ultimate
right?
multi-plat. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
A
So I
Rockstar game, basically. Yeah.
Right. So I almost feel like I'm trying to think of the best way to like formulate this, but like I do wish that Cyberpunk had more development time. I think they just rushed it out because they just wanted to give it to people. But I feel like for Halo specifically, like they're just like holding it back from a console that's already out. So I guess it doesn't really matter anymore since the console's already in people's hands and people are already trying to get it regardless. But basically what I was trying to say is Halo should have already been out because of the Xbox being out.
Sure.
And because it's Halo. Halo and Xbox. Like
You're saying they should have rushed it out and
exactly. I think Cyberpunk should have had more time and Halo should have been rushed
I got
out.
you. Yeah.
The stakes are certainly higher for Microsoft, I would say that.
Evan's right. They were in kind of an impossible situation when you think about it, but it's also an impossible situation they kind of created for themselves too.
Yeah.
And to Amir's point about Halo Infinite, I think that was the right thing to do to delay it. But again, Microsoft is such a huge company. They have the finances to do that, whereas CD Projekt Red, not as big. And so I think, and people have said, well, their stock, I think their stock price was like, rivaling Ubisoft at one point. But I just feel like in terms of their resources, their staffing, they're not as big, and they just had to get this game out.
Sure.
That's what it feels like to me.
And I guess the official statements that we got earlier on, I forget the developer's name, who basically kind of took the bullet for all of the bad news that they always had to share, where he was saying like, we want to make sure that this has launch parity with everything. That's a core tenet of like what CD Projekt Red has become. They've built this ethos around being consumer friendly. As soon as they started knocking DRM like off of like Witcher titles and have GOG.com, like that's the same company, So it's an ethos like through and through, not just like CD Projekt Red, but the other entities that they also run.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I think like, that it's like a scenario that they did put upon themselves in that way, but to great effect, like to try and embody that ethos and be like consumer friendly in that way. And it sucks that it's blown up on them in this way, like for the game to kind of perform this poorly. I think in the grand scheme of things, like the bugs are here and it's like sensational, not even necessarily sensational because it's true, right? Like the issues with the games are true. The people are having a lot of problems and they're not able to play, as smoothly or even like satisfactorily on last gen consoles. But eventually and hopefully that stuff can get kind of washed away. Like they can patch that stuff out, they can improve it, and then it's going to be fine, but it's just like, gosh, what a bummer for them to like go through all this and like probably crunch. That last delay was only like 20 something days. And imagine if they had another month.
It's like 3 weeks.
But who knows what their obligations are monetarily, like to investors or whatever. They probably had to release the game, before March or whatever.
Yeah.
So I just
into the fiscal year. Yeah.
Do you guys think it should have been next gen and PC only? Do you think that would have helped it?
Yes.
I agree.
But I don't. But I think Evan's right.
People would have revolted.
I don't think they could have done that at this point because it had been in development for so long. It would be like if you're announcing a game right now that's in development and you're like, but this actually isn't for the PS5 and the Series X. It's for whatever comes.
Right.
next.
And that's what they said in those announcements. They're like, it wouldn't be fair for us to just launch on like set platforms and not others.
Right.
And at the time we didn't know which platforms were having the problem. Like there was rumors that it was last gen. There was rumors that it could be next gen because it's new hardware and there's always like next gen.
Yes.
Just like there's open world.
But that's happened before. Like there's been games that have been like announced like during like the PS4's like introductory cycle, and before that console came out, there were games that were being announced. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I remember there were games that were announced that were going to be cross-generation, but as development progressed, it proved to be way too difficult to get, kind of optimize it for previous gen consoles. So they just said, sorry, you're going to have to get a next gen console. Yeah. I almost I understand that there is the whole sake of making sure everybody could play this game. I totally get that, but for a game this ambitious, I really think it should have been people aren't going to die if they don't have Cyberpunk, right?
I don't know. I think you're right.
Corporately, they might have been like, absolutely not.
The marketing team
have to release it on.
Yeah, you're right. Gen. Yeah, financially, they probably would have been fucked financially because you can't even find a next gen console. So
that's what
exactly. What are there at max 3 million next gen consoles out right now?
I mean,
versus 140, 150 million.
Yes.
Current. You just have to go where that is. All right, we're going to talk more about this in just a second, but first, let's talk more about ExpressVPN, guys. Did you know earlier this year, more than 100 Twitter users got their accounts hacked into? That means passwords, email addresses, phone numbers, and more, all taken from high-profile people. Oh, just a few names. Joe Biden, Elon Musk, Kanye West. Those are like 3 presidents right there who got hacked. And they're getting more and more frequent and severe. Not just Twitter, Facebook, eBay, Uber, Adobe, Yahoo have all leaked data like passwords, credit card info, driver's licenses belonging to billions of users. And guess what? If somebody can hack Joe Biden, it's going to be pretty easy for them to hack you. That's why I use ExpressVPN to safeguard my personal data online. You know what? And it's scary. Hackers can make up to $1,000 from selling somebody's personal info on the dark web. That means we're easy targets. But ExpressVPN, it's an app that funnels your data through a secure encrypted tunnel. No matter what device you use, you can have peace of mind every time you use the internet. The app connects with just one click. It's lightning fast. The best part, ExpressVPN works on 5 devices simultaneously. You and your whole family can stay connected. So again, if it can happen to those guys, it can happen to you, I promise. And if you visit expressvpn.com/sendnews right now, you can arm yourself with an extra 3 months of ExpressVPN for free. That's expressvpn.com/sendnews, SENDNEWS, all one word. Visit expressvpn.com/sendnews to learn more. And now, more Cyberpunk. Let's keep it
going. Did y'all have any other questions about like gameplay experience stuff?
I do actually, because I remember one thing. We've been talking about like performance and stuff here, but one of the tenets that this game was marketed on was this idea of living whatever life you want in this futuristic city and having this and it was, and I kind of get, I tempered my expectations a bit, kind of, the No Man's Sky, like stuff.
No Man's Sky, but in a city.
But bring it down. But I got the sense that literally you could carve out a very specific like life for your character. And it seems to be that is not quite the case. I don't think you can be like a far future drug dealer and be like, do you want to buy some death sticks? It's like, do you want to be a corporate guy? Do you want to be a nomad? It's like, that seems to be the kind of like the gist of it. And then when you talk about specializing, it seems to be, from what I can tell, like you use this thing, like you use this gun, and then now your like proficiency in that increases, and then you get points to spend in like whatever category. So that's cool that it's like a doing is what earns you that progression. But I'm not getting the sense that you can be like, okay, I want to have like a completely passive, non-violent life as like this.
Can I be a low-level bureaucrat
at
the DMV and just have a gun in my dress just in case?
It's not like that at all. I think, like I kind of mentioned earlier on in the beginning, like my life path choice completely got retconned within like the first 20 minutes of the game. And I became a mercenary. And if that's what's going to happen with the other 2 storylines, which I feel like from my exposure to the game and kind of what I've seen, it seems like that's what's going to happen based on trailers and stuff that we've been seeing for years now.
I'd like to take this person with your vast corporate experience and see if you would be a good hired gun.
They don't set up the stakes well at all I can speak to that particular story in terms of like that shift. I think it's kind of a fun way that they do it, but it could have been executed a lot better. And again, just like talking around it without spoiling it. So you'll see, but it is like at this point in time, again, only 3 hours. It's like it feels like a relatively small part of that. To like the stats aspect, they are basically like 5 RPG stats that have been replaced, like where you'd have like whatever intelligence or wisdom and strength and whatever. Those are kind of there. I think the stats are like it's body, one is tech, one is intelligence, one is cool, and I forget what the fourth one is. But the cool stat is basically like the stealth stat, and it like improves like a lot of different things.
Oh,
there's like a
interesting.
The
there's
text.
always one overpowered stat that if you just pour
cool is the
into,
luck of Cyberpunk.
Yeah. So it makes you quieter and also like improves other things. Whereas like
my copy just arrived. I just got an email from Amazon.
Go get it. Go.
Do you want me to do an unboxing?
Yeah.
Yes, go.
On the podcast.
Yeah, I can keep talking.
Hold on.
There you go.
I'm playing it as we speak right now.
On mobile.
Yeah.
I know that there's a multiplayer component coming out, and I'm really curious about that. Have they said anything about what that's going to be?
I have no idea, but also
not a clue.
At this point, geez, I can't imagine it comes out this year or something. It's gotta be.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure it's ways away. But honestly, if they are planning to make this thing, I really hope it's like MMO style. Like, oh, that'd be so fucking cool, man. Like, I'm not like straight up MMO style, but more like along the lines of like GTA Online. You know, where it's like. It's just like sandbox. You can do like gigs and stuff. Like that would be sick. But then again, I don't know if they've actually said what the multiplayer
Not
was.
really. And you probably are, what you're talking about is like a Cyberpunk Sea of Thieves, right? That's not what you want?
More like a Cyberpunk GTA Online.
Okay. Yeah.
That's usually my basis for online games.
That seems like it lines up, but I can imagine, granted, the things that are popular right now, what if it's like Cyberpunk Battle Royale? Or something, you know,
right?
I don't know. Deathmatch, maybe.
Cyberpunk
The shooting
League
is
of
okay.
Legends.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, Brian's got his Cyberpunk.
Don't dox
All right,
yourself,
for our
Brian.
audio listeners, I will be narrating Brian opening his Amazon package. First, we have what appears to be a typical Amazon soft package. Brian rips through the top of the membrane to reveal what is that? Cardboard sleeve around Cyberpunk 2077 for the Xbox One.
There it is.
All right, he looks upon it
opening
longingly, staring into the eyes of V.
4K Ultra HD HDR plays on Xbox Series X. There's
How does it
there's a little
smell?
sticker.
How does it smell? As far
Give
as
it a whiff, Brian.
Yeah, give it a whiff. Well, crack it open. Crack it open.
Yeah, you're gonna have to
whiff of the
get through
inside.
that shrink
Fine.
wrap.
Here goes my refund. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
Oh wait, yeah, hold on.
No, it's all right. I've done it. It's too late.
Oh, okay.
as far as we know, the copy of Cyberpunk 2077 is not on fire yet. Like in yours.
Right.
Let's
Yeah.
see. There we go.
Yeah.
God, I fucking love new game smell.
Wow.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, there's a lot of literature and stuff.
yeah.
Let's
That
see.
is actually something I really like about it.
Oh, there's an
I've seen.
HBO Max thing.
Oh.
Ooh.
a
and-
30-day free trial.
Yeah,
Great
yeah.
service, I hear.
This is riveting podcast content.
There's some postcards here. Yeah, you're right.
That's kind of nice.
An audio only unboxing.
Yeah, I didn't get
I
into
think,
that
I think we
cool
need to
stuff
mix
with
this
the
with
digital-
ASMR.
With the digital
There's a
copy.
world compendium, so a little glossary of like weapons and stuff.
Nice.
I was so mad.
Well, I got a little circular icon on my desktop that says Cyberpunk 2077, so that's pretty cool.
This is as somebody who misses instruction booklets.
Yeah.
Oh, and a map. Oh, there's a map.
What?
Oh. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like that's almost like a must with open world.
And this
games,
was
is all the stuff.
this was not any kind of deluxe edition or whatever. This was just the.
I was so mad when I
Just a
found out in
regular-
Japan that just regular ass video games come with all sorts of stuff like that.
Yeah.
I forgot how old I was, but I was like, "That's not fair. How did they get all this stuff?"
Yeah.
Because that
All
is
right,
a
now
thing.
I'm excited again to play it.
Seeing-
Now I'm stoked.
Seeing the map
You made eye
reminded,
contact with the disc.
reminded me of a section in the game where like people are just getting murdered all the time in Night City. It is completely It's just wild, like how much murder and crime there is.
I love that, and I love that aesthetic. I love that futuristic. I wouldn't say this is near future. I mean, this is 2077, but that's Blade
57
Runner.
years from now. We got plenty of time to get flying cars.
Yeah, I am not going to be alive at that point.
I was just thinking about this, not about Brian's longevity so much as like if I play my cards right, it's not out of the question to think that I could still be kicking it in 2077. And if I am, mark my words, somebody hold me to this, find me in the future. If Los Angeles in 2077 does not look exactly like this game, I am done with games forever. Okay?
Yeah.
After that point, I'm done with games forever. That's lied to me for the last
until
time.
then,
Until then, I've got 57 years of this shit to slog through.
Well,
But if in 27,
You're supposed to send yourself...
I just did the math. I would need to make it to 101. So if feasible, but probably
that is feasible.
Yeah.
Hey, the life expectancy increases year over year. That means I'll be in my
not in the U.S., buddy. You're thinking about
true.
other countries.
yeah.
Zach, your old ass self is supposed to mail your past self a letter. That's how you would find out.
Well, by that point, I'll have figured out how to enter the Tesseract and then like manipulate my bookshelf to like tell me these messages. So,
But it is funny how that 2077 is like so far in the future. That's how they used to be about 1984. Like when they did that, when they put that year, it's like, oh, that's so far into the future.
Yeah.
It's like flying car territory.
And then it was like,
that's
no,
what I thought
actually
2020
everything
was
is
gonna
just
be
neon.
like.
It's fine. Like, right.
Yeah.
everything's chrome.
Future.
I mean, you say that, but then you look at like the Star Wars prequels and like, that was their addition to that universe. Just make everything chrome.
It's well now I just want to play it. But I am.
All right, podcast over.
That's
Thanks,
right.
everybody.
No, we've still got
cutting it early.
We still got a little ways to go to land this ship.
Yeah.
But you got to think they're going to fix this at least, to an acceptable level. I feel like they just have so much riding on this game.
Yeah.
I mean, this is their show pony because everything else, I feel like in the company, I mean, you got Witcher 3 that they're still supporting, but like everything else is a distant second to Cyberpunk.
Yeah, and I'm sure right now their main goal is to keep this ship afloat until the Switch Pro comes out, and then they can port that over
and have
and
a
make
terrible
that look
port
like
for
shit.
that.
Yeah, exactly. That's the goal. They have it on like a little motivation. What do you call those things?
A motivational poster. It says "hang in there," but
vision board.
The cat is holding two Joy-Cons instead of the.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Make Cyberpunk look like shit on the Switch too.
Bear in mind that like this game will get patched. It'll get patched a lot.
That's right.
But also, it is going to be this is not going to be a one patch fixes all type situation. There have been reviewers getting copies early have already spoken to this about how there were significant patches, very specific patches to fix very specific issues that did not touch those issues at all. I think we talked about skill up earlier, and I remember in his video he mentioned there was a patch that like very specifically called out fixing the floating guns issue, and then booted up that patch after that patch and was like, oh cool, the floating guns are still here. Like this did not address the thing that this patch was meant to do. So like this will be, and Witcher 3 is a good also thing to keep in mind, where it's like that game was pretty damn buggy when it first came out. Like the first two Witcher games are notoriously buggy and kind of jank, and like granted CD Projekt Red is not, it feels like they've been around for longer than they have as like a legacy studio because Witcher 3 was such a smash hit.
Yes.
But like they're not this studio that's got this crazy legendary pedigree with like an entire library of shit under their belt. I mean, like they're still on the come up, I think. And so maybe they bit off a little bit more they could chew with Cyberpunk 2077, but I think like 6 months from now, this is going to be a very different conversation. And like, if you can hold out, like if you're not just like chomping at the bit to play Cyberpunk right now, if you're one of those people that's just like, like
most people are.
Another thing to think of here is that like the lay person, like this is when this game, what I worry the most about with Cyberpunk right now, as far as like the public perception, is that we in the know in this industry are all like, okay, well, it runs like this, but it's going to be like this, and we can like look forward 6 months.
Yeah.
But like people that are just like everybody's heard of this game. So like, Johnny, whoever the fuck, who's just like, oh, I've got, home from college for 2 weeks and I've got like some time to kill. I'm going to grab Cyberpunk for my PlayStation 4, and it runs like dog shit. Like that is going to be something that hurts it in the long run, because these are people that are not clued into like, what will this game be like in 6 months? Or they know is I spent $60 on something that just doesn't run,
and they just put it down and never.
Yeah, and they're like, "Fuck
again.
this game." Yeah, Cyberpunk sucks,
right.
and then they go back to school, and it's like, "Oh, did you play Cyberpunk? Oh yeah, it's terrible. I only got like 20 minutes into it."
And there is that whole patient gamer movement where it's like, you don't play a game until a year or maybe even more after, and there is the argument for that, where you're not part of the current conversation, but you are getting the best and cheapest version of the game if you wait.
Yeah. And it's annoying that you have to have that division where like it's one thing to be an early adopter with a piece of hardware. It shouldn't be quite the same thing with a piece of software, but seems like that's kind of where we're at, where it's like, hey, if you're the brazen dumbass enough to buy a game on launch day, well, you get what you deserve.
Yeah, once they were able to patch them online, I mean that opened the door for all this. Once for console games.
I think I'm more in Amir's camp. I'm not really like because I have an Xbox Series X, but like we mentioned earlier in the show, a lot of people don't. A lot of people didn't even have a chance, even have the slightest chance to get a next gen console, even if they had the money for it, and were willing to buy it, and like even paying attention to like refreshing web pages all day constantly. Like it's just not an option for a lot of people. But that said, like I'm not that frustrated by it, because it kind of maybe was like a little bit expected for me, and the bugs so far aren't game breaking. Like I haven't lost any save data or anything, and I hope that I don't. But maybe that'll change by next week, and I'm like, you guys, this is so broken. Like it's still real bad out here. But as of right now, it seems like most of the stuff is like I said, like Fallout 3, Fallout 4, kind of livable in that way. I know Fallout 4 did have like some save.
Fallout New Vegas was a mess.
Yeah,
and people love that game.
Yeah, that game is
even
still
Fallout 4. Fallout 4 was hot garbage when it came out. Like, because I did the whole midnight release thing. I was so excited for it, and then like there were so many times where there were like game breaking bugs. Like I'm talking like things that wouldn't allow me to progress, because I either got stuck in the water, my partner got stuck in the water, they wouldn't come outside, I can't do anything, I have to restart my there was a lot of moments like that. But Fallout 4 is still great. The modded community is still like super strong. So I mean, it's always possible for a game, especially something of this size, can always bounce back if there are a few issues.
Isn't even Fallout 76 kind of having a revival right now too?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Actually, I forgot about that. Yeah, Fallout 76. Great point, Evan. When that game came out was garbage, and then now they're on like a resurgence of making this thing good again. I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, they put a lot of free updates out, and
peaks and valleys,
content.
baby.
Yeah, one of the best jokes.
I think the first move was putting in NPCs, because they didn't have that. It was like you can only talk to robots, but now they have NPCs and like an actual story
like
that you can
system.
play.
Yeah.
And no canvas backpacks.
One of the best jokes I saw in our comments was somebody had written, sorry, I don't remember who it was, but they said Cyberpunk 76, and I was like, okay, you got me. That's pretty funny.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, the thing though that I like about this game is it's single player. I know there's a multiplayer portion coming, but that's obviously I think a ways off, maybe even more of a ways off now. But it does feel like that the campaign and everything, it's finished. They've got sort of a complete game in there. There's a lot of bugs and performance issues, and it doesn't feel like Final Fantasy 15 was, where they kind of threw it together and you can kind of tell some sections are really tacked on at the last second. Yeah. So that's what I said earlier. Like, I feel like there's a good game there, and not just the good bones of a game, like a good game. It's just not optimized. It's not debugged. And hopefully, with all this, and nobody likes to get negative feedback, but hopefully this will throw a scare into them to fix it, and I'm sure they will.
Yeah, I'm waiting for a lot more of the deeper cuts about the narrative and the story and all of that stuff. I love reading those types of criticisms and takes. Like I get like the initial review stuff is out there, and there's some of that in there. But like, yeah, I want to see what people have to say after spending like 100 hours with this game or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Please keep the penis coming out of your pants on the motorcycle bug though. I want to feel like driving down the streets of Night City like I'm jousting windmills. I want to be the Don Quixote of Night City with my fucking hog just 20 feet in front of me. Yeah.
Stay tuned for Zach's new book, Hog in the Wind.
And I will say it does feel like they were being a bit sneaky in terms of just giving PC review copies, no console reviews.
Yeah.
You know, it felt like they tried to cover it up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
and the YouTuber Skill Up said they wouldn't let anybody use their own game capture for reviews, that it all had to be trailer. So it's like I feel like they knew, and they were trying to at least be sneaky, to put it nicely.
Well, what I saw was that it was because the whatever build of the game that they sent out to reviewers is apparently like completely different than like the final game. Yeah. And I guess, but that's weird to me, because like, why, if like these are the people that are reviewing this game that will, you know, more or less persuade people to buy this game or not, wouldn't you want to send them like the final build and not some like early as hell, broken as hell build of this game?
That's why those copies came out so late. It's about time, right? It's like about how fast you iterate those versions of the game and how fast you're pushing changes. So in order to get reviewers that copy 3 days early or whatever, they had to use a version that was like 2 weeks older or something, right? Like that, a more stable version, right? Because once you just push like a new version, it's not instantly better. Like you have to run QC on it to make sure that it's stable and it hasn't broken the game. And it's a 100-hour game, right? So how do you check that? You have to make sure that the version that you're sending reviewers is at least stable enough for them to finish the game. So I think that's a large part of it. I think to Brian's point, like marketing and developer, like publishers are going to publish. It's their job basically to make this game look as good as they
put the best face on it
with the best face on it that they possibly can. And that's why when people say like, oh, a review copy came out late, like review copies came out late for a 100-hour game, that's when everybody starts raising eyebrows, like, oh, this might not be what we think it's going to be. And in the case of Cyberpunk, the severity of how busted things are is what's like really shocking to me. Right?
Yeah, when people when it got out last week that people weren't getting, that lots of outlets weren't getting copies, I immediately was like, something's going on.
CD Projekt Red is on a higher plane of existence here. They're playing like 4D chess because they're like, we're gonna, for the first time ever, make an entire game a vertical slice. And it's like,
seriously,
try to come at us after that. Yeah.
Yeah, it we will see. I mean, I don't know. I'm looking at the game now, and now all I can think of is I want to go play it or install it. It'll probably take an hour to install it. Yeah, I mean,
at the time of recording
questions.
this.
Do we let's see. We'll take a
maybe
question.
like one or two.
Yeah,
we can take a question.
Sorry, Al.
All right,
there is an all questions episode coming later this month.
Yeah,
so stay tuned
we
for
kind
that.
of
Questions.
but we still have time for a few. Let's see. Hold on, I'm pulling up our Twitter at Inside Gaming. You should follow us there. Someone asked, and this is a kind of a Cyberpunk related question. This is Ray Joy, kind of a loaded question the way they frame it. Why do they call it crunch in gaming, but all it is just overtime? So a little bit of, I feel like I can tell where Ray Joy falls on this, but I think it's different because I think the difference is the amount of it. And I feel like crunch in the gaming industry can go on for a year, longer than that. And whereas overtime is, to me, and the jobs where I've had to work overtime, it's more like, boy, this is going to be a busy week for us, or, you know, we've got this big thing. You know, I came from the news business, so if it was an election night, you knew you were going to be working all night. But crunch is like a whole.
You're essentially
thing.
dedicating your.
Yes.
You know, I feel like when it's considered crunch is when the whole work-life balance thing is completely thrown out the window.
Yes.
And it's just like you're essentially dedicating your being to this project.
That's right.
And
if overtime is a 3K turning into a 5K, crunch is a 3K turning into a 10K.
Yeah, that's a good
that
example.
Running terms?
Is that running? Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exercise?
I'm under no. Don't let me paint myself having a picture here of me even being capable of that. I'm just saying, it is a very different expectation.
Right now.
Like
do it right now.
Oh yeah,
Zach.
this week. Okay, so this week is gonna be hellish, and it's like overtime. But then crunch is like the next few months of your life, you are not going to see your family, and it's like and also there is the expectation of like, because it is still an entertainment industry, like. It's not like they're holding a gun to your head and they're like, well, you don't have to, but if you are not willing to like play by those standards, there
20
is
other people
always
are.
a million other people in line that are ready to do that. They don't have a family or kids or whatever.
Well, and that's the argument.
Did Rockstar do that?
Yeah, that's
Naughty Dog. I mean, it's pervasive, and it there's the argument too that it runs off veteran talent. Naughty Dog has allegedly had that problem because with The Last of Us 2, because people would just leave. They have to replace them with junior level, and sort of to get them up to speed just takes a lot of time. So.
Yeah.
Well, now crunch has been factored into it's like crunch is a part of the development process in so many studios. Where like I think it was last year that we all, as an industry, kind of collectively realized that BioWare magic is just crunch. It's just a lot of crunch. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's called crunch because it's just
those three factors I think are like probably it. It's like the duration of it, how many people it affects, and the unclear nature of like whether you're obligated to do it at the risk of losing your job. Yeah.
But that pressure on a job, if everyone else is, if your boss is, you probably are too.
Yeah.
So that's a lot less voluntary at that point. Okay, let's call it there. Unless did somebody else?
I was thinking like I'm almost curious about like I wonder if it would be better if you're getting into that industry if jobs just be like, look, we crunch a lot, just letting you know. Mm-hmm. And I feel like you could just make that decision right then and there. Although I'm curious,
it might
like,
be
how many
okay
games
if you're 22, but not okay if you're 35 with a family.
That's true.
Yeah, people are aware of that reality getting into games. It's just like the problem of like making that a career decision where like Brian said, like it's very different for a 22-year-old to be asked to dedicate the 4 months of their life to 80-hour weeks. But that's completely unreasonable if you're a career developer who is children and a family and like has to figure this out and have that sort of balance because the pressure is so great.
That is true.
Okay, let's call it there. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we will be back, I believe, next week, and maybe have an update on Cyberpunk at that point.
Absolutely.
We'll see.
All right,
see ya.
Bye.